Kombucha kvass. Kvassucha. I don't know what you would sounds Latin. Anyways, the old coot here coming at you. I'm kind of, the old coot here coming back at you with another exciting video. I'm I'm kind of digging that whole kombucha thing. But anyways, is it kombucha because of the black tea? Is it a kvass because of the honey ginger? I don't know what the heck it is. It's just a drink that I make, which is super antioxidant, right? Super healthy for you. It's got a lot of minerals that have been fermented, which is basically the goal of this whole thing. And what I'm doing here is I'm kind of going to let this ferment for about 3 days and then burp it basically every day. Just what that basically means is I'm not going to screw the cap on the container too tight. I'm just going to leave it kind of loose and then just open it up once in a while, stir it around or just close the lid tighter, shake it up, and then basically do the thing. Anyways, what are we talking about here? So a lot of like Eastern Europeans, Northern Europeans, I think Europeans in general, also the Asian cultures like doing this. But basically what they do is they take fruits and vegetables, or they'll take rye bread, or they'll take something that has naturally occurring yeast in it. And what they'll do is they'll ferment it for 3 days, make a drink that's kind of fizzy. And then at that point, you have to bottle it, stick it in the refrigerator. Otherwise, if you leave it on the countertop, it could grow like excessive mold bacteria or whatever, which is what you don't want. But that's why basically 3 days is like the sweet spot. 3 to 5 days, give or take. So anyways, let's talk about what's in here. So I've got a piece of ginger the size of like my finger pretty much. I chopped it all up. So that's what's actually going to go into the blender, right? But that's basically about the size of the piece. I would say maybe like a tablespoon or so, maybe like 2 tablespoons or so of ginger is going in there. Ginger, antioxidant, right? Good source of the stuff that keeps the cold away, the bacteria away, the harmful viruses, just helps to prevent you getting sick during the wintertime, during the summertime, spring, summer, fall, whatever the case may be. But that's going into a blender. Then what I've got is I've got some lavender in here for the chill, cooling, meditative effects. So here's the brand that I like, Lavender Surtere. This basically to me was highest quality, lowest price, met somewhere in the middle, best bang for the buck. This is the one that I like. What you'll do is a lot of times you'll see this in cafes or coffee shops, and they'll just put a few of these little like buds on top, these lavender buds, and they cost a fortune. So that's why I found this brand, best bang for the buck. Okay, then what I've got in there is black tea, which is kind of aiding itself to that kombucha kind of realm, right? Usually the way that the Asian cultures and, big bottling manufacturers, the way they make kombucha is they take black tea, right? Which is what that is right there, black tea. And then they'll ferment it. And then basically the liquid that generates around that becomes kombucha. So here's the brand that I like, Davidson's Organics. Again, best bang for the buck. I like this Assam Banaspati. Is that how you pronounce it? Anyways, that's what it is. Contains caffeine, so obviously you're going to get a little bit of caffeine in there. And that's why the lavender, that's why the, ding, I couldn't have asked for a better belt. But that's why the lavender's in there to kind of neutralize, kind of counteract. So you get a little bit of like it doesn't have as much caffeine as say coffee does. Plus I only used 1 teaspoon, like 1 actual teaspoon of it. So it's got a little bit of kick, but the lavender helped to mellow it out. Then what I've got in there is hibiscus. So that's dried hibiscus flowers. This is the brand that I like. Anthony's Organic Hibiscus Flowers, cut, sifted, right, gluten-free, all that good stuff. Best bang for the buck. Again, so highest quality, lowest price, met somewhere in the middle, the best bang for the buck. So hibiscus, lavender, black tea, then you've got some ginger in there, right? And then honey, key ingredient. So a lot of people, when they make these kvasses, right, what they'll do is they'll put in sugar. I'm not a fan of sugar, granulated sugar, even though it's for the bacteria, like the good bacteria to help digest, whatever. Why? Why? When you can just use honey. Honey is sweet, right? It's also got a lot of probiotics in there as well. Raw honey is the key. So get away from that, store-bought generic honey, which is probably more cornstarch and sugar than actual honey. This is the one that I like. This is a Costco Kirkland special SoCal raw unfiltered honey. Whatever part of the country or the region or the world that you're in, I'm sure you can find raw unfiltered honey. That's the trick there. So you're getting all the benefits of the honey. I put in 2 tablespoons into some water. How do you know how much water to put in the container? Pour your water into the container that you're actually going to be putting your stuff in, right? In this case, what I did was I filled it up to about like right there, because I want to leave some room for all the other stuff, right? These are volumetric things. I know I'm butchering my English language, but basically these are going to take up volume within all of this. So that's why I filled up this container to about right here. This happens to be muti, by the way, like cento traditional passata. Basically, wash the jar, clean the jar. You know, if you really want to go nuts and you're really trying to avoid bad bacteria, bad, you know, whatever, you could boil this sucker. Obviously, take the label off. You kind of get the idea. But I just gave it, you know, warm soapy water, rinse, let the soapy water sit in there for a minute to kind of wash it out. And then basically washed it out. We cleaned it out with more clean water. And then basically here we are. So filled up my container to there with water. What kind of water should you use? Filtered water, very important. I don't use distilled. I don't use tap water because tap water has or may have like chlorine or other things in there which are designed to prevent bacteria, mold, you know, bad stuff. So I just filter my water. Good. That goes in the container up to like right there. So leaving a little bit of room for this stuff in there and also room for the fermentation process to happen. Put the water in a, what is this? A bullet, like one of those Ninja bullet type things. Put in 2 tablespoons of the honey. Now I'm going to put everything else in there, blend it up into like a smoothie almost. Pour everything into the container, and then basically just literally I'm just putting the cap on top. That's all I'm doing. I'm not tightening it down. I'm not trying to seal it. I'm just trying to prevent like bugs or whatever from going in there. What would be ideal is if you had some cheesecloth, you could put cheesecloth over, you could put like a piece of cheesecloth over this with like a rubber band, and that way it can still breathe. And then just basically leave it on the countertop. I would say once a day, maybe twice a day, like every 12 hours or just every 24 hours is fine. What I want to do is I want to put the cap on and just shake it up and just make sure everything's getting mixed in there. That'll also help those fermentation bubbles to kind of come to the top or come to the surface. After about 3 days, you'll notice like some bubbly action, like small little teeny tiny bubbles that'll be bubbling around the edges. That's normal. That's actually what you want. That lets you know that it's happening. At that point, what I would do is I would taste the product. So just get a little teaspoon, just taste it, see how it tastes. Is it sweet enough? Is it fermented enough? And then you can kind of let it go another day or two. I would say no more than about 5 days. But after 5 days, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a handy dandy strainer, something like this, right? Like a little strainer. And then basically transfer this into another container, which I am then going to cap and seal and stick in the fridge. And then when it gets chill, you know, maybe after 6 hours, I'll start drinking it. And I can have it for maybe 2 or 3 days max. After that, I would say you kind of got to be careful about the pressure that will build inside of the container. So try to get containers that are meant for that purpose, right? This happens to be, I just washed this right to clean it out to make sure that it was all good and clean. But this happens to be a fermentation grade bottle, right? Something that has a swing top. These are called swing tops. Something that has a swing top that you can put your final liquid in. And then basically I'm going to like close this down. This will go into the fridge. If I were to leave this on the countertop past like 3 or 4 days, right? Like, so this mixture went into there, fermented for 3 to 4, maybe 5 days. But if I were to put the final liquid after it's been strained into here and leave this on the countertop, explosions may occur. So just be warned. You want to make sure you put this in the refrigerator, refrigeration temperatures, which is what, like 34, 36 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that, on up to maybe 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And then basically when I want to drink it, I'm just going to open up the flip top and then go ahead and pour that into a glass. It should be bubbly and fizzy. And I'm going to show you all that in a few days. So anyways, with that being said, I will put links to all of the stuff that you see here that I'm using in the video, or at least most of it. I'll put links down below in the description, also in the comment section, wherever that is. I'm the Old Coot. Let's make Kvass Ucha or Kambasa or however you want to call it. Let's do it.